Okay, let's dive in and get started. We'll rename this test method to something more appropriate. We'll start adding our code in here. If we have a look at the demo page and right click on the search box and inspect element in Firebug, we'll just simply copy the HTML for the text box and paste it in here so we have it as a reference. If we have a look at the HTML, we can see it's an input tag that has a class name, a name property, and an ID. This means we can find this element in at least 3 different ways using the by locators. So with our driver instance, we can go ahead and find this text box using the by class, and we start off with class name and just copy the input text from here. In fact, let's store this in a variable, call it search box. With this search box, we can then use the send keys command to type something into it. And now with this search box, we are going to overwrite this box using the by class, but this time we'll use the ID. The ID in this case is search, and we can do a search.clear to clear out the text apple. And then again, we'll overwrite the search box, and this time we'll find it using the name property, which is simply Q. And using the send keys command, we'll type in Sony. And finally, we'll find the text box using the CSS selector. So we have an input followed by dot, and we'll paste in the class name here. And this time we can clear out the text box again. Let's place a breakpoint over here so we can see what's going on. Come into the test view and refresh this. Right click and debug this test. We found the text box using the class name. If we hover over the code and click the plus icon, we can see some of the properties of the text box. Let's continue through. We're entering the text apple, then we find the text box using the ID and clear it out. Then we find it using the name locator and type in Sony. And finally, we clear it out using the CSS locator. So you've seen how we are able to find the same element using different properties. If you're wondering what would have happened if the element had not been found, say for example using the CSS property, then WebDriver would have thrown an exception. So the fact that we didn't have any exceptions shows that we were able to find the elements using the various by methods. Hopefully this has demonstrated the advantage of having multiple methods available to us. If the obvious ID property isn't available, then we can still find the element by using other means. My personal preference is usually to use CSS.